listen, I think just from what we discussed initially, our focus in terms of the strategy and growth in Asia, India is a key component of that growth. I think over the past year we have hired more than 450 people in India. We have significantly increased our presence in the property management by threefold, and we continue to grow irrespective of service line. And the reason is because the real estate market here over the long term will continue to be extremely important. Obviously, I think when you talk to developers and economists and investors right now, there's been a bit of a slowdown, but the cycle will turn. I think people expect also with the global economy improving, the Asian region is going to benefit from that. India is absolutely going to benefit also from that. So hopefully we'll see over the next few years an improvement, and again going back to higher growth. I would say if you ask me today, probably no, they won't come back immediately. But the reality is the same thing happened anywhere else in the world, right? It's not an India specific situation. This is not the only market where people got burned on real estate over the past 3-5 years. It's been difficult in some markets, and it depended very much on what type of real estate you were involved in. Residential had its own issues when you talk about the United States. So if you go country, city by city, and secondary city or tertiary city, you can really see that people got very badly burned. So I think it's too general. I think investors, as I said, capital can flow quite freely across the world today. And investors in real estate trying to determine where is the best place for them to get fair returns. They're prepared to take risk, but for those risks they want to get fair returns. And they will look at India in the same way, fully realizing that it is not a market where there's so much liquidity that they can come in and out quickly. It takes time. So I wouldn't tie it to specifically from India. And if you got burned in India, most likely it's gonna take some time before you come back. If you thought you were coming in just for a quick return, right? But frankly, also around the world, any investor who just thinks that it's easy to make money probably got burned in the last 5 years. If you look at REITs around the world, and probably the most sophisticated market in terms of REITs is the United States. In the United States, it has provided another avenue for liquidity. So if you invest in real estate and you decide that you have a certain portfolio of real estate assets, you can put them in a REIT. And I think originally the REIT probably has different sectors, different industries that get put into this REIT and taken public. The evolution of that is then to make a healthcare REIT, a very specific sector-related REITs, IT. I mean, there's a lot of different things that have been done, whether it's lodging, entertainment. So I think that's the evolution, and that's positive because it provides also an alternative for retail investors to invest in different segments of the real estate market through the equity markets. So that's positive. And also, I think one of the things that we're talking about is it also adds to transparency. I will tell you that happens everywhere. The big funds are run in a very disciplined way. They are very, but they are very logical in the approach of decision making in terms of doing their research. And when they decide to do a transaction, they move forward, but they move forward with great diligence and attention. So the fact that it takes time to do a deal, that doesn't surprise me. And I would say maybe if you compare obviously the United Kingdom or the US to India, probably will take a little longer because you have to understand better the legal structure and various other aspects that probably you have not had to deal with in other markets.
The economic issue, like other macro factors like the currency, that also matters?
I think for sure the currency, for an investor to know that he can get more comfortable in terms of the returns that he can deliver on the real estate side, but then also has to have some confidence that there's a certain stability in the currency, so that not all those gains get lost in currency devaluation. So I think that's another component of any country being perceived as as an investor goal, objective, or location to invest. Whether it has a sort of a relatively stable currency system.
Do they also factor in the political situation also, especially when the elections are near?
Well, absolutely. Same way though that they've been dealing with the past 2-3 weeks in the United States, right? I mean, U.S., as you have seen, the economic numbers continue to improve. Sentiment has improved. Transactions have taken place. Stock market has been very positive. As soon as the market has seen some of the issues on the political front, it stepped back a second to evaluate what was going to happen. And frankly, in the end, so I think it's the same impact. It's the same impact. People are cautious when there's political change.
As you said, like investors are very opportunistic. So in terms of better returns, which are the markets which are currently giving better returns than any of the comparable peers of India?
I think what's hard to generalize when you look at, but if you look, let's assume the last few years, what has happened since the crisis. I think the gateway cities, sort of the main cities in the world, whether it's London, New York, San Francisco, I think have benefited from real estate prices improving in the quality, always looking at the quality assets. Then it's hard. You have to. I think that most of the main cities around the world have had, compared to second and tertiary cities, have had less impact in terms of loss in value. But I would say if you look at market and the performance of certain markets over the past 2-3 years, certainly the 3 safe cities have been good places to invest in. And there's been places also in Asia that have continued to do well. I think Southeast Asia, a city like Jakarta seems to have continued to perform very well.